video, we explore the value and purpose of life and how it connects to the larger goal of building a better nation. How does the individual purpose fit within the context of a community? And what role do we play in shaping the future of our society? We will address why understanding this concept is critical to nation building, as well as how ideologies and governance systems shape the nation's direction. Can the current extractive economic model continue to sustain us, and what must change for a shift toward prosperity? This discussion will highlight the importance of a conscious alignment with the community's well-being and how our individual actions contribute to or hinder national progress. Stay tuned as we uncover the deeper connections between life purpose, national identity, and economic transformation. Welcome back. If you are new here, please subscribe and follow us on all NEAT social media platforms at neatcommunity.ng. Also, it will be nice if you can turn on the notification icon so you can get notified each time we upload new content. There are a number of topics we need to cover, so rest assured we will be uploading new content every week. NEAT is an acronym for Nigerians Engineering Astounding Tomorrow. It is an initiative designed to bring together young and intelligent Nigerians who have what it takes to look beyond the challenges and divisions in the country and formulate a plan that would transform the nation and follow through with the plan. This content, along with the others, is designed to enlighten us on the key things needed to build a better tomorrow. Today we're talking about the value of life. You can also see it as the purpose of life. This conversation, like many others we have had in the past and those we will have in the future, is very important in any effort of building a better nation. They may sound abstract and disconnected from politics or governance, but don't see it that way. We received one feedback, and in their message, the person wondered what all this has to do with building a better nation. They had expected to hear the names of political parties, election reforms, or specific policies that would help the Nigerian economy. If you belong to this class, it is totally understandable. But don't look at it this way. As you may know, the goal of the initiative is to rally people together to forge a new nation. This is more than getting into political office. It is about a massive structural change that can bring sustainable development for generations to come. To achieve that, there is foundational knowledge that we all need. The goal here is not necessarily to push a particular narrative, but to present perspectives that seem very important, yet often neglected. By discussing these issues, the hope is to activate our senses to see beyond artificial limitations that may have affected our ability to build a state-of-the-art economy. So yes, these topics are very important and very much connected to electoral reforms, economic policies, and national development strategies. Without listening and following the conversations in all the videos, you may not be able to see beyond limitations that sadly have placed the nation where it has always been. Also, there is something we need to mention here. There is hardly any nation, entity, or association that excels without an ideology or direction. The bedrock of any institution is the ideology embedded within the governance system. One of the major issues Nigeria and many other African nations have had is often pushing ideologies that are detrimental to them. Although it is often done unknowingly, it does not change the fact that they are not good for the nation and its economy. As much as many do not realize, the current ideology for which the nation exists is based on extracting both human and natural resources from the land to the maximum benefit of the international market. A lot of external nations are also, coincidentally, living off this model. They all see their survival hinged on extracting both human and natural resources from Nigeria and Africa at large. It is very unlikely that they are thinking anything different in terms of strategy. Left for them, this is the only way to survive. Anything that would make Nigerians and Africans to entrench this, or even make their homes more vulnerable to extraction, would be an answered prayer for them. Instead of changing it, the competition will always be about who will maximize the extractive opportunity. In Nigeria, it started with Britain, but as things stand now, other nations have joined the extraction competition. Even the administrative model, the way of life in Nigeria, and the mode of doing business are all skewed to support this extractive model. It would take a very strong mental shift from Nigerians to be able to fight this off. As we have mentioned before, such a mental shift requires first the kind of clarity we are trying to communicate through these videos. If you are interested in getting comprehensive clarity on these issues and how they're supposed to tie together to produce the nation we all dream of, you should get a copy of Beyond the Past as well as Legacy. These two books were written with the vision of building better people, nations, and the world at large. There are high chances for the insights from both books to inspire you to be better for yourself, your community, nation, and the world at large. Without access to both books, we have to find ways of communicating some aspects of it, particularly those that seem very important in this national transformation goal. This is also part of what makes the conversation on purpose or life very important. But before discussing the topic, there is something else we need to clarify. This again is about those who may still not be convinced on the strategy of discussing these topics. As we mentioned before, every functioning nation has an economic ideology driving its success. No nation can be competitive if they don't have a well-thought-out plan. Now, one of the key things about a plan is communication and transmission. For a nation or even a community to be competitive, they must have a communication mechanism to communicate and coordinate their plans. We will discuss communication mechanisms and networks in detail in the coming videos. However, one thing that must be clear is that without a communication network or mechanism to transmit plans and strategies, you can't have a strong economy. Whether it is Russia, China, India, the United States of America, or European nations, every one of what is considered a strong economy must have had and still have a very strong communication network. They all have a means of identifying and engaging powerful and influential individuals who will be useful to the cause of the nation's economy. The network often knows how to engage, educate, and validate these individuals right from a very early age. The distortion of ethnic ties in Nigeria in particular destroyed this network. As it is today, there is no way for Nigerians to communicate strategic imperatives or engage the right individuals who would advance the goals of the nation. Meanwhile, the nations Nigeria claims to be competing with have their communication lines intact. It is possible that the reason we don't know or hear what those nations are saying or communicating to their stakeholders is because they have their communication lines intact and effective. It is very possible that they are even communicating the decomposition of much more complex ideas and initiatives than what we are discussing here. Thanks to this, we're left to use the crudest methods possible. For example, what is the other alternative for reaching out to you if not for putting these contents online? Think about it. In Nigeria today, if there is an important national message to be passed across or to be deliberated, what is the way of arriving at a collective decision? How do you get many of the Nigerian stakeholders to deliberate or contribute to a national direction when all the traditional gathering methods have been disconnected? They have all been distorted in favor of what many think is the national and state assemblies, which have all turned themselves into promoters of political party, economic, and authoritarian interests rather than stimulating national direction. The thing is, without a complete understanding of how much distortion colonization caused, it may be difficult to appreciate the task ahead, as well as why conversations like this are critical to the goal of building a better nation. This is also why our conversations on economic advancements cannot just be about GDP, inflation rates, interest rates, or all the other statistics that were pushed on us. While they all have their values, as we will discuss in the future, they are not the only important topics that need to be discussed. In fact, most of them are measures or metrics that are driven by real-life issues we're focusing on. For example, GDP is only a way of presenting an economy in numbers, but it is not a dynamic that influences the economy. If you want to improve GDP, interest rates, or inflation numbers, for example, you can't do it by adjusting them. Also, As we will discuss in future videos, those metrics, if are not tailored to fit in, will more likely continue to restrict the growth of the economy. For example, Nigerians have known about GDP, inflation, monetary policies, and all these other metrics for over 50 years now. So why haven't they transformed to the same quality of the economy as those who introduced them? What has prevented the knowledge and expertise on GDP, inflation rates, interest rates, and monetary policies from being applied to the Nigerian economy and environment to mirror that of European or American economies? The answer is that those things do not transform an economy. They depend on other things such as population, birth rate, death rate, productivity of the people, which are all driven by ideologies and governance systems. These are the same things that we mentioned are components of an ethnic community. We could argue that one of the biggest drivers of all these things is the topic we're discussing in this video, the topic of the purpose of life. To make this conversation easier, we need to reference one of the things we said in one of the past videos. In that video, we did mention that as you are, as a Nigerian or African, you are not an isolated entity. We all are integral components of our ethnic communities or tribes. When we hear the names of our ethnic communities, we should think of ourselves. The individual names we bear are only reminders that we are indeed components of a tribe. In one of the videos, we used the analogy of a tree and the branches of the tree to explain this. Whether we as individuals wish to view ourselves as fruits, leaves, or branches of a tree, the most important thing is that our identities are that of the tree. Therefore, that someone gave you a different name is not because you don't bear the same name as your tribe, but a reminder that you are indeed that tribe. Whether it is Ningwa, Ijao, Tiv, Igala, Ijebu, or any other community, you don't just belong there. You are that community. Now, whether the community is at peace with each other, living harmoniously, or everyone in the community is now engaged in rituals, it does not change anything. We are all still that community. The only thing here is that, as individuals, we all are mere components of the main whole. You can see the whole as the summation of the different lives that every component of the community lives. That is, the lives of the different families in a community, and that of the different members of the families. Whether a community is in disarray, such that families are attacking themselves, or the challenges are within the families where we came from, it still does not absolve us from that community or that family. We still remain an integral component of that family and the community. Actually, it is this notion that we are all components of a family and indeed an ethnic institution that forms the purpose of our individual lives. It means that unfortunately for all of us, and in contradiction to whatever you may have heard or learned elsewhere, the value and purpose of our lives lie in the integrity and continuity of the community. You may have heard people say that when someone dies, life continues. Ever wondered what that means? Literally, it means that no institution dies at the death of just one of its components. That is, no institution vanishes because one person in the institution is dead. A better way of looking at death could be the expiration of a unique consciousness. It is like the falling off of a leaf or some fruit from a tree. While it is inevitable for a leaf to fall off at some point, the purpose of that leaf lies in its contribution to the tree's sustenance and existence, even after the unique leaf is gone. This applies to our lives as well. Our purpose in life is to give the entire tree, that is the family, along with the ethnic community, a value, a direction. Even when you study the scriptures carefully and integrate them with what we see every day, you will appreciate that the afterlife is more about events continuing on earth after one is gone. This, of course, does not negate any theory that all events in the afterlife may not take place outside the earth. The key message here is that a significant component of what happens after the death of individuals takes place as the continuity of life here on earth. Think about it. Most of the things we live by today, whether it is scientific theories or mathematical equations that produce technologies we have today, or the policies that have shaped our world today, were contributions of unique consciousness in the past. The Nigerian problems we are trying to address today, as has been repeatedly argued, are products of colonization, which started by individuals before us. They shaped the continuity of life in a way that became a mess and problem for us. They did this by trying to reshape our understandings and perceptions of life in a way that suits their agenda. One of those is the distortion of our ethnic governance systems and knowledge, including the purpose of life. This further proves the point that the essence of a unique life of an individual is to give the whole a direction. There are those who think that the purpose of life is to live it to its fullest, as they would always say. They assume it is about what they think is enjoyment. To some of them, it is about having fun, whatever that entails. Sometimes you see people who, in the name of living life to its fullest, get involved in all sorts of expenditures and lifestyles. Some others, instead of thinking of how to work hard to save their dying economy, feel their so-called lives matter most to them. Resources they could easily use to help the community or set the community in the right direction of self-sufficiency, they use it to buy or invest in things they don't even need. What most of them fail to realize while doing this is that they are only feeding into the extractive economy. They hardly see the picture that the dynamics of the purpose of life is either you influence others or you are influenced. It is either you consciously control how you contribute to the afterlife or someone else controls it for you. People who devote their resources to doing what they think is enjoying their lives, whatever that is, do not often realize they are only unconsciously contributing to another community or economy. They don't see that they are supporting the growth of communities that they are not part of. They also do not realize how failure to control their consciousness is forcing them into a place where they become mere puppets in the hands and agenda of others. So it is important for us to know that the call to be useful or contribute to the integrity and continuity of an ethnic community is not optional. It should be better seen as a mandatory call to duty, since this call can either be responded to consciously or unconsciously. The best course of action would be to answer it consciously. This means carefully choosing the things we do, the things we believe, the things we invest in as part of our duty to life. Any decision not to be part of this should not be seen as not contributing, but choosing to contribute to the wrong direction. It means handing over oneself to be used by existing forces that have already shaped life perceptions to get many of us moving further away from our purpose of existence as possible. Now, the question we need to answer is, what is the best way to fulfill this purpose? We should ask ourselves, what is the best way of making the most of our individual lives? Is it by acquiring properties for people to live, even if it is people who do not even know that we are the owners of those properties? Is it by starting a ministry where we preach theories and dogmas that we must have heard from somewhere and have accepted them because they have always been accepted? Or do we fulfill a purpose by donating resources to the poor? Is it about growing a business empire, even if such empire means expanding the extractive model? Can fulfilling life purpose mean taking care of our immediate and extended families? You are welcome to share your thoughts on this topic in the comment section. In the meantime, you should know that it is more than any of those. While any or all of the above may be considered good, it can be argued that they are not the main thing. The main thing is about sustaining and redirecting the heartbeat of the community. If you recall, in one of the videos, we did explain that the governance system, including the policies and the nature of government of the ethnic community and any broader society, is the heartbeat of the institution. Making sure that, through our philosophical inquiry, financial investment, adoption, and adherence to the collective laws, the institution remains spotless, undefiled, and incorrupt is the ultimate way of fulfilling the purpose of life. Specific details on how to achieve these will be shared in the coming videos. In summary, remember that if we don't say all these to ourselves, we may keep telling ourselves what we don't need to say, while ignoring what we need to say. We might as well be helping to entrench the colonization that has kept us where we are. As already mentioned, one of the things Nigerians and Africans don't realize is the interconnectivity of the world. No nation lives in isolation. We tend to forget that what is often defined as a wealthy nation is a product of 80 to 90% of the resources of the so-called poor nation. Think about this. If Nigeria and other African nations were to be considered rich today, would the other international nations be rich too? Most likely not. The rich and poor terminology may vanish and be replaced with normal. So, the wisdom of an advancing nation could be from the stupidity of retarding nation? If Nigeria were to advance economically, would it still consider external knowledge, whether European, American, or Chinese, superior? Unlikely, right? Clearly, we have work to do, and a significant part of it is mental. Thank you, and see you in the next video.